Hello everyone. In today's class we are going to study the two important topic. First one is vfork function and the another one is the exit function. Now we are going to start with the first topic, vfork function. So in the last class we are seeing how the fork function is going to work, right? So the fork function is used for what purpose? For creating the process. So now the fork command will be going to use for creating the process. So what is the parameter it is going to take? That is the param PID, the return type is PID, the fork function and the parameter it is going to take is null. So the fork command is used for what purpose? For creating the process. So the new process we are going to call it as what? Child, right? Now the fork command which is invoked, that process which is we are going to call it as what? Parent. Now the parent is going to create the child process by using the fork command, right? So this fork command is going to be supported by the Linux operating system and the POSIX operating system. Now another variant of fork command is vfork function. This is going to be supported by the BSD, that is Berkeley Unix operating system is going to support the vfork function. This function is also going to work just like a fork function. This vfork is also used for creating the process. Now what is the syntax for that? The same syntax, PID, return type, and the fork command. Instead of fork, what we have to use? We have to make use of v. So next word. See, instead of fork we are using the vfork command. So if it is successful, if the child is going to be created successfully, then it is going to return the two important value. One is 0 and the another one is a PID. So it is going to return the 0 value for the child process. Why? Because all the child is having the single parent. So for that purpose it is going to return the value 0. Now the PID is nothing but the process identification number that is going to be written for the parent. Why? Because the parent is having the more than one child, right? So for that purpose it is going to get the PID of all its children. So this is the value it is going to return if it is successful. So if it is unsuccessful, it is going to return the error message with the -1. So this is what the syntax for the vfork function and its return value, which is similar to the fork command. So then what is the difference between this fork and the vfork function? So we are going to study one by one. The first difference between the fork and the vfork function is that address space. So the address space. So what do you mean by that address space? Address. See here, whenever the parent is going to create the child process going to get the memory space and its stack and its initialized data, uninitialized data. So all that information it is going to inherit from the parent, right? So which one? The child process. Now the address space is nothing but all the address variable, that is the variable address it is going to hold. That address space, that is nothing but we can say that it is a memory location. The address space is different in the fork command. That is nothing but the parent is going to have the parent and the child. The parent and the child is going to share the data, stack information and then the variable uninitialized data. So all that information is going to be shared by the parent and the child, right? But the address space, so what is that? The address space is different for the parent and the child. So the parent is going to have the separate address space separate address space and the child is going to have the separate address space. So whatever the changes you are going to do for the variable, that is not going to affect in the variable which is present in the child. So that is the address space will be different. The address space is different in which command? In the fork command. Now let us see the next one, that is address space. Here the address space is same, that is both the parent and the child, that is both the parent and child is going to share the same address space. So that indicate that any changes to the any variable which is going to affect both the parent as well as the child. So this is the first difference between the fork command and the v-fork command. So let us see the second difference. The second difference between the fork and the v-fork is nothing but, so when the child is going to be created, so in which one? In the fork command, when the child is going to be created, both the parent and the child is going to perform the operation simultaneously. That is when the parent is going to create the child. See, it may be the many child it is going to create. Now the both the parent and the child is going to work simultaneously. So that is nothing but the parent is going to do its own work and the child is going to perform its own work. So now that is what the fork command is. Now in the v-fork command, so when the v-fork command is used for creating the child, then the parent is going to be suspended. So why? Because the v-fork is going to suspend the parent process and make the child process to execute. So this is what the major difference between the fork command and the v-fork command. So in the fork command, the address space will be different. In the v-fork command, address space will be same. But here in the second differences, when the parent is going to create the child, then the parent and the child is going to work simultaneously. But in the v-fork, when the parent is going to create the child is going to keep on executing. So once it is going to terminate, then only it is going to resume the parent. So this is the two important difference between the fork command and the v-fork command. So let us see how this is going to work with the simple program. Let me explain. So how the v-fork command is going to work with the simple program. See here, the same program we are studied in the fork, but little changes. So let us see what are the changes we are made for the v-fork function. See here, I am going to declare the global variable. The global is equal to 6. Next, I am going to start with the int main, and then I am going to declare the one more variable, that is var. So it is an ordinary variable. I am going to initialize the var with the value 88. Next, I am going to declare the one more variable, that is PID, that is to hold the process identification number. So what its return type, that is the data type PID underscore T. Next one, so before the fork I am going to just displaying the message. Next one, I am going to create the process by using which command? v-fork command, right? So the PID is equal to v-fork command. So if the child process is going to be created successfully, then it is going to return the value 0 or PID value, right? So if it is less than 0, then it indicate that there is some error. Now it is going to return the error message. Next, if it is false, it will comes to the else part, and the else part PID is equal to 0 indicate that the child process is created successfully. Now the value is 0, and what I am going to do with the else part, that is I am going to increment the global value and then I am going to increment the var, right. So what is that global value? Before it was 6, now it will becomes 7. Now similar to that, the var before it was 88, now it will becomes 89. Why? Because we are doing the increment operation. Next, one more important function we are going to use, that is underscore exit of 0. So that is within the else part, I am going to call the underscore exit of 0, indicate that it is going to terminate which one? The child process. It is going to terminate the child process. So after terminating the child process, it will ends the else part and it will comes to the printf statement and it is going to execute the statement. So after terminate the child process, it is going to wake up the which one? The parent one. Now at this, it is going to resume the parent process, right. So now the difference between the fork and the V fork we are going to see here. The first one is, so exit functions of 0. The underscore exit of 0 indicate that it is going to gives the controls directly to the which one? For the kernel. So it is not going to do the flushing of the standard input output buffer. So but in the case of exit function, so what it is going to do? It is going to execute the exit handler function, right. So we already studied this one. The exit function, it is going to handle the exit handler and it is going to flush all the standard input buffer what it is occupied by the process which is created. Now it is going to remove all the resources, then the control will be given to the kernel. But underscore exit of 0, it is not going to flush the standard input and the output, directly the control will be given to the kernel. So this is what the difference between exit of 0 and the exit of 0, that is underscore exit of 0 and exit of 0, right. So this is the one important function we are added in which function? In the fork function. But fork function is we are not use the underscore exit of 0. So what else we are used in the fork command? So here after this else part, we are going to make the else part, we are going to make the parent to sleep for the 2 minutes. We are forcing the parent to sleep for the 2 minutes, right. So that is what the fork command. So why? Because once the child is going to be created, the parent and the child is going to execute simultaneously. In which one? In the fork command, right. So in that cases, what we have to do? We have to suspend the parent for those 2 minutes, right. So then after executing the child process, we are going to wake up that one, and before that we are going to make the parent to be sleep 2 minutes, right. So this is what the fork command, right. So in the fork command, we are not going to do anything. Why? Because when the parent is going to be created, when the parent is going to create the child process, now the child is going to execute all this statement and it is going to terminate. Once it is going to terminate, then only the parent is going to wake up, right. So that is what the major difference between the fork and the fork function. So let us see how this program is going to run. What is the output we are going to get? See here, I am going to give the program name, and then after that I am going to run the program with the a.out executable file. Next, what is the output I am going to get? First I am going to get the before fork. This is what the statement I am going to get. So next, after that, what is the value I am going to get? That is PID. What is the PID value? some identification, the process identification number. So how we are getting the process identification number? By using the get PID function. So get PID function is going to return the process identification number. So for that we are going to display the PID value. Next, after that, what is the value we are displaying? That is global. Now the global value will be how much? The value, it is 89. Next one, the var value, the global value will becomes how much? 7, and the var value will be 89. So this is the value I am going to get, right? So in the V fork, the output is going to displayed only once, right? So why? Because though all the control will be given to the child, but in the fork command the same output is going to be displayed twice. This is what we are seeing in the last example, right? So one for the parent and the one for the child. The child is going to have the same value, but the parent is going to have the global value will be the same value, and the var value will become say 88. For which one? For the parent. For the child, the global value will be 7 and the var value is 89. So for the child the value is going to be updated, but the parent the value will be remains same, right? So why? Because though the address space what it is going to use will be different. In which one? In the fork command, right? So but in the fork command the address space is same. Any changes to the one variable which is going to affect both the child as well as parent. So this is what the difference between the fork command and the fork command. So let us start with the next topic, that is exit function. Let us start the next topic, that is exit of function, right? So exit function, we know that we are going to terminate the process, right? So to terminate the process we are going to make use of the exit function. So for that we are having the normal termination of the process and the abnormal termination of the process, right? So normally the process is going to be terminated the 4 ways. Abnormally it has the 3 ways, right? So suppose for example I am going to take the simple program, that is void main, or you can take int main. Next, after that I am going to display the simple message hello MIT, right? So this is the simple program, int main printf hello MIT, right? So now I have to terminate this function, right? So how to terminate this main program? So that is when you are going to press the run button, it is going to create internally it is going to create the process, right? So the program under execution, what we are going to call it as process, right? So now I have to terminate this program. So there are the normal ways and the abnormal ways we can terminate the programs, right? So first one, returning from the main. So when you are going to give the statement return of 0, indicate that you are going to perform the termination of the program, right? So when the kernel is going to fetch this return of 0, so what indicate that it is going to be a normal termination of the process. It is going to terminate the process, and the control will be given to the kernel, right? So that is the one way of exiting the main program. That is the one way of terminating the process successfully. So next one, instead of return of 0, I can make use of the exit of 0. So the exit of 0 and the return of 0 is going to work similar. So now the exit of 0, which is also used for what purpose? For terminating the process normally. So the 3 ways we can make use of the exit of 0. So first one is just make use of exit then after that capital letter exit with the underscore, next underscore small letter exit. So these are the three different ways we can make use of the exit function, right? So the exit of 0 terminate the process normally. So the two thing is there, calling the exit function, next calling the underscore exit and the underscore small letter exit. So what is the difference when you are going to make use of the exit function, the first one, the first form, then what happens, the control will be given to the which one, exit handler. Exit handler. So what, for what purpose we need a exit handler? Because to remove all the resources which is occupied. Which one? That is process. So the process is going to occupy the resources for execution of this program, right? So after execution it has to terminate, right? So before termination the resource has to be released, right? So for that purpose the exit function, the small letter exit function is going to make use of exit handler. Now the exit handler is going to terminate or remove all the resources which is occupied, right? So that is what the exit. But when the underscore exit and the underscore small letter exit, so it is directly the control will be given to the kernel. The kernel is going to release the resources, right? So this is what the difference between exit underscore exit. So this is going to be supported by the ISOC. This is going to be supported by the POSIX operating system. So this is what the second and the third way of terminating the process. In this case also the process is going to be terminated successfully. So last one is returning from the last thread. So we know that thread is nothing but lightweight process, right? So all the process, suppose for example this is the program. Now for this program the kernel is going to create the process P1. Instead of creating the child process, it is going to create the threads. It is going to create the thread for making these programs to be executed simultaneously. That is making the multi-user multitasking operation. We are going to make use of the thread concept, right? So multi-threading, multiple threads are created to perform the multiple tasks at the same time. So this is what the threads. So the thread cancellation, the process is going to wait so for all the threads to terminate, right? So when the last thread is going to be cancelled, then the control will be given to the P1. Now the P1 is going to terminate and the whole program is going to be terminate successfully. So that is what returning of the last thread. So these are the what, it is nothing but normal termination of the process. When you are going to consider the abnormal, we are having three important ways the process is going to be terminate abnormally. So calling abort function. So abort function is going to be used by the kernel. So is suppose for example the child, whatever the process the child is, it is going to create, now child is going to take the more resources. So in that cases it is going to call the abort function to abort the or terminate the child process. So in that cases we are going to call it as a abnormal. The second one is the receipt of the signal. So we know that the signal is going to be generated by the user or maybe the kernel. So what is this signal is nothing but, it is nothing but the interrupt, that is software interrupt. While executing the program, so if the user is going to interrupt, so by pressing the escape, so in that cases it is going to generate the signal. Now when the kernel is going to get the signal, so in that cases what happens, it is going to stop executing this program and it is going to terminate abnormally. So the third way of response of last thread cancellation. So in the previous example we are seeing that the thread 1 thread 2 is going to be created by the process P1, right? So the P1, the parent is going to wait until all the thread is going to be terminate successfully. But when it is going to wait, So the last thread is going to cancel. So in that cases what happens, the whole transaction is going to be cancelled, right? In that cases the abnormal termination is going to happen. So this is what the exit function, the normal way and the abnormal way. So the kernel is not going to bother what is the normal and the abnormal. So when it is going to terminate this program, what it is going to do, the kernel, suppose for example kernel. So this program is going to be terminated successfully or unsuccessfully. So it going to make use of exit of 0, return of 0, the kernel is not going to bother. So once it is going to terminate this main program, so the what happens, the kernel is going to release all the resources which is occupied. So which one, the process, whatever the process which is created for the execution of this program, that process is going to occupy some resources, right? So in that cases the kernel at the end, it is going to release all the resources which is occupied. So and it is going to make a room for another program for the execution. So this is what it is going to do, the kernel. So what is the syntax of the exit and the underscore exit function? So we are seeing the syntax. The simple syntax for the exit function is that void exit of status, right? So for the exit function is going to takes only one argument. What is that? Status argument. So the status is going to be integer value. So suppose for example it is going to return from the value 0 to 255. Now if it is going to return the value 0, then we can say that it is a successful. That is nothing but normal way of terminating the process. Other than 0, we are going to call it as a abnormal, right? So this is how the exit function is going to work. So the exit is going to takes only one argument, that is status. So not only exit function, the underscore exit function is also going to take the same argument. The status is going to plays an important role for the termination of the process, whether it is normal or abnormal. Let me explain the three important points we have to remember in exit of function one by one. Let me explain the three important questions under exit function. So the first question is that what happens if the parent terminates before the child, right? So we know that we are going to make use of the for command and the fee4 command for creating the process, right? The parent process is going to invoke the fork and the fee4 function to create the child, right? So it is not going compulsory that it is going to create only one child, it have the more than one child, right? So now the parent is going to create the two child, right? So by using the for command and the fee4 command, right? So what is the question? The parent is going to terminate before the child. So what happens here? The kernel is going to keep track of all the information that is about the terminating the process, right? So when the parents likes to terminate, it is going to informs the kernel that I likes to terminate. In that cases, what the kernel is going to do, so it is going to make the one of this process as the PID is equal to 1. So now when the child 1 will becomes a PID value with the 1, it will becomes what? Parent. The parent for all its children. So what is this PID is equal to 1? So we seen that what is the PID? The process identification number. When the kernel is going to make any one of the process PID value is equal to 1, indicate that it is going to redirect to the INIT process. that process is going to be used by the kernel, right? So for what purpose? For bootstrapping purpose, to make the program to execute for the starting, for the termination, the init process is responsible. So now we are going to make the one of the process as a init process. So in that cases, this will become, init process will become a parent for all the remaining child, right? So that is what it is going to happens when the parent is going to terminate before the child. So that is what the first question. So next question is, if the child is going to terminate before the parent, what happens? See here, when the parent is going to be created by using the fork command or v4 command, now the child is going to be created, child 1 and 2, right? So now the parent is going to create the child 1 and the child 2. So now the parent is going to wait for all its child to terminate successfully or abnormally, right? So in that cases, the parent has to wait, and when it is going to fetch the last termination status of the child 2, then only the control will be given to the parent, and the parent is going to return to the main function, right? So this is going to happen when executing the program, right? So the parent has to wait for the termination of the child. So in this case, the child is going to be terminated, the child 1, and is going to be terminated before the parent, right? So it is not going to inform to the parent. Now what happens? The parent is going to keep on waiting for the child to terminate, but it doesn't know whether the child is exist or not. So in that cases, we are going to call it as a zombie. So what we are going to call it as? That we are going to call it as a zombie process in the Unix operating system. So if the child is going to be terminated before the parent without informing the parent, then the parent is going to keep on waiting. That we are going to call it as a zombie, right? So now what is the solution for this type of problem? So in that cases, the kernel, what it is going to do, the kernel is going to maintain the small amount of the information about all the terminating process, right? So it is going to keep track of the process PID, and the next after that it is going to take care of the CPU utilization time. So all this information will be keep in the kernel once the process is going to be terminated, right? So now the kernel is before the process is going to be terminated, the kernel is going to check whether it is a parent or a child, right? So if it is child, then what happens? It is going to keep track its PID and CPU utilization type, all the information about that child. So now what the kernel is going to do, the kernel is going to intimate the parent by sending the signal, that is the child is already left. The parent will get to know that the child 1 is terminated. So for that function, for that we are going to make use of wait or wait PID. So these are the two important functions we are going to make use to for the parent to indicate that whether the child is going to be terminated or not. So this is what the solution for the child terminates before the parent. Now the last question is, what happens if the parent is going to be terminated before the child? Then what happens? The kernel is going to assign the one of the process, that is as a PID is equal to 1, that is init process will become a parent for the remaining child, right? So now if the process what it is inherited by the init process which is going to be terminates, what happens? So in that cases, so the init is going to call the wait function. the wait function or wait PID function to get to know whether the process is terminated or not. So if it is going to be terminated, so then it is going to get the information from the kernel. So which one? That is INIT process. So INIT process get the information from the kernel by using the wait and the wait PID function. Now by doing this, it is going to prevent the process to become the zombie. So these are the three questions we have which come across while executing the exit function. So before termination of the any process, whether it is a parent or a child or a INIT terminates, so all the things we have to keep track. So before terminating any of the process, what happens? It is going to terminate without informing or with informing. So when it is going to inform the parent I am terminating, then it is a successful, right? So if it is not informing the parent, then it is an abnormal one, right? So in that cases, the kernel is going to take care of all that information. So now this is what the exit function. So next class we are going to study what is wait and the wait PID. So for what purpose we are going to use and what are the parameter it is going to take, we are going to study in detail. So in today's class, we are studied the fork function, and one more topic we are studying exit function. So next class we will continue. Thank you.